murder of Shonda Scherer is one of the most shocking and heartbreaking crimes in recent American history, notable for the extreme cruelty of the perpetrators and the youth of both the victim and the perpetrators. This case exposes the dark side of teenage violence, peer pressure, and the consequences of jealousy and revenge. Shonda Renee Scherer was born on June 6, 1979, in Pineville, Kentucky. After her parents' divorce, she moved with her mother to Louisville and then to New Albany, Indiana, where she attended Hazelwood High School. She was a bright, friendly, and popular girl who enjoyed the lively sport of cheerleading and had many friends. However, her life took a dark turn when she became involved in a love triangle that ultimately led to her murder. At the heart of the conflict was a toxic romantic relationship between two teenagers, Melinda Loveless and Amanda Heavrin. Melinda, an emotionally unstable and possessive young woman, had been in a relationship with Amanda, but when Amanda began to develop an interest in Shonda, Melinda became filled with jealousy and rage. Shonda and Amanda met in the fall of 1991 and quickly became close friends. Melinda, still in love with Amanda, saw Shonda as a threat and began to express her hatred toward her. She made numerous threats about harming Shonda, but many of her friends thought she was just being dramatic. Sadly, her threats soon became horrifying reality. On the night of January 10, 1992, Melinda Loveless, along with 3 other teenage girls, Lori Tackett, Hope Rippey, and Toni Lawrence, planned to lure and ultimately kill Shonda Scherer. Melinda devised a plan in which Hope and Toni, posing as friends of Amanda, would trick Shonda into coming with them. They arrived at Shonda's home in New Albany and convinced her that Amanda wanted to see her. Shonda, unaware of the trap, agreed to go with them. Once in the car, the girls drove her to a remote location where Melinda was waiting. Seeing Melinda, Shonda sensed danger. Melinda pulled a knife on her and began hurling insults at her, blaming her for her breakup with Amanda. The girls then moved Shonda to another deserted location, tied her up, and for several hours subjected her to indescribable torture, including beating her, burning her with lighters, and even attempting to slit her throat. However, when she didn't die quickly enough, they put her in the trunk of their car and drove her to Lori's house, where they continued torturing her. At one point, they stopped at a gas station, where one of them heard Shonda's screams from the trunk. Instead of helping her, they drove her to a secluded field, poured gasoline on her, and set her on fire. Shonda was still alive at the time, making her death even more painful. The next morning, 2 hunters found Shonda's burned body in a field. The police were quickly alerted and began an investigation. Meanwhile, the 4 girls continued with their lives, even bragging about their actions to their friends. However, their crime didn't remain a secret for long. Toni Lawrence, the least involved of the 4, broke down and confessed to the police. The investigation quickly led to the arrest of all 4 girls, and as the evidence mounted, it became clear that this murder had been premeditated and brutal. The Shonda Scherer murder trial was highly publicized, with the prosecution seeking justice for such a horrendous crime. Melinda Loveless and Lori Tackett were considered the main perpetrators, and both pleaded guilty to murder and were sentenced to 60 years in prison. Hope Rippey and Toni Lawrence, although involved, played lesser roles in the crime. Hope was sentenced to 50 years, while Toni, who cooperated with police, received a lighter sentence of 20 years. The Shonda Scherer case raised numerous psychological and sociological questions. How could teenagers commit such an atrocity? What drove them to be so cruel? Various factors played a role, including peer pressure.